Welcome to Subconscious Conversations, where we take a look into the intricate world of the subconscious mind and how to heal the body, mind, heart, and spirit through its wisdom and guidance. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Brielle, and I'm the soul practitioner at Springseed Wellness, where I practice the energy medicine techniques of Soul Survey, which I created myself, and Emotion Code, Body Code, and Belief Code, which were created by Dr. Bradley Nelson, and Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique, which was created by Dolores Cannon. In today's episode, I will be talking about animals. Like many of you, I absolutely love animals. All animals. As I mentioned in previous episodes, I'm that crazy person who talks to animals, even insects, and it doesn't even matter if I'm in public or in private, I just talk to them. So I absolutely love the fact that Emotion Code, Body Code, and Belief Code are also extremely helpful for animals, and I love working on animals. These modalities are extremely helpful for wild animals and domestic animals, and it helps in emotional and physical aspects as well. And just like with humans, it can either be done in person or remotely, so I don't even have to be near the animal, which makes it very helpful when working on wild animals. I can help them from wherever I am, which is really, really convenient. And a lot of people tend to view animals as being less emotionally evolved than humans, with less of a deep and broad spectrum of emotions, and therefore they tend to view animals as less likely to be emotionally affected by different events that they experience. And that might be true for wild animals, but there is a theory that the more domesticated the animal, or the more time a wild animal spends around humans, their emotional capabilities start to expand. I don't know if that's true or not, but I can't possibly look into an animal's eyes and not see a feeling and expressive soul. And it really does seem like animals that are domesticated or spend a lot of time around humans do have a deeper well of emotions, which makes them vulnerable to emotional injury just like humans. And when an animal is upset or traumatized, their behavior changes greatly because they don't have the ability to just come up to you and tell you what's going on with them and how they feel about it. They can only communicate behaviorally. And if an animal is suddenly showing odd or disruptive behavior, it's really difficult to determine why and to help them overcome whatever is causing the issue. And now I'm not capable of telepathically communicating with an animal in a full-on conversational way, but I am able to tune into their subconscious and ask yes or no questions and get down to the bottom of what's going on with them and then clear it out. So in a way, it is like I'm speaking to the animal. It's just a subconscious conversation rather than a verbal or telepathic one. And sometimes a clear story isn't necessarily mapped out during a session, but at least that negative energy is released and they can get back to normal. And sometimes even bring your animal to a new, more improved normal. I'm going to share a few stories about my experiences working with animals. I had one instance where somebody had reached out to me to work on their cat because it was suddenly being mean to all the other people and animals in the house and was just randomly attacking everyone. And this cat had never behaved in that way before. When they left the house in the morning, the cat was growling and hissing and attacking everyone. But then by the time they got home after work that day, the cat was purring and snuggling and loving everyone again. And they were so blown away by the night and day difference. But it turned out that the cat had gotten into a fight with a neighbor cat and was pretty pissed off about it, and was just kind of taking that out on everybody else. But I released the emotions about the fight and directed healing to the physical effects from the fight, and the cat was back to normal. And they never would have known why the cat was so upset or how to resolve that. So it was really wonderful to be able to help. And the cat might have gotten over it on its own eventually, but the dynamic in the household would have greatly suffered if they had waited it out. And there was another time I had the privilege of working on a horse who had been rescued from a terribly abusive situation. And it was so traumatized that it wouldn't let any of the other animals or any of the humans come anywhere near it. And after 2 sessions on this horse, it started letting its new owner get closer and closer. And it felt so great to release some of that trauma and help the horse feel a little bit more safe in its new loving home. And we adopted a dog from the shelter who is quite the character. I've mentioned this in previous episode, but when we first got him, he was on heavy medication and had many behavioral quirks, shall we say. And I've done a lot of work on him, and he's come so far, and it's just amazing. We slowly did get him off of the medication, which was actually part of the problem and wasn't actually doing him any good whatsoever. And we've gotten him to the point where he's just such a sweet and gentle love bug. Now, there will be certain genetic behavioral traits that will probably not ever be able to be changed. For instance, my dog is a hound dog mix. So I will probably never be able to stop him from getting totally distracted and wanting to track every single smell during a walk. But that's okay. That's just part of who he is. He will always sniff and get excited and want to track. But as long as he doesn't pull my arm out of the socket, I'm fine with it. But I'm going to go off on a little side tangent here for a second. I think shelter animals endure a lot of emotional issues during that whole process, and it really affects them emotionally, mentally, behaviorally, and physically. And when an animal is suffering through that, they're not at their best, and they end up being less desirable for adoption. So I would love to help any shelter animals alleviate some of that trauma and get them to the point where they're more adoptable. So if there's any shelters out there listening, reach out, because I will do work on your animals for free as long as you agree to give my business card to whoever adopts them. We recently adopted another dog as well, this time not from the shelter, from an acquaintance. But they needed to find her a new home because she was getting attacked by the other dogs, and to the point where she was running off. And I did a little work on her before we brought her into the house as a way to kind of soften the transition. And I'm sure it did help. But it was still a little bit of a transition. Our boy was always a very gentle player with other dogs. But she, on the other hand, was used to getting attacked and having to defend herself. So the dynamic between the two was not the very best at the beginning. She was being a little overly defensive and aggressive with him, and he got a little more defensive because of that. But I continued to work on both of them, and she quickly realized that not only was he just playing instead of attacking, but that he was being very gentle about it. So she calmed down pretty quickly, and now they're just like sweet little snuggly best friends. It's so cute. And I do still have some work to do on her with, getting defensive over food and toys and some other little behavioral things, but we're coming along quite nicely. And, that's a point I also want to make, is this work isn't meant to be a replacement for training, but it definitely is a wonderful companion to it. Now, this story isn't my personal one, but I think it's very relevant, so I'm going to share it. I met a lady one time who had a rescue dog with some pretty significant behavior issues, and she had tried everything from medications, diet changes, like the little Huggy sweater things, You name it, she tried it. She was just about at the end of her rope with what to do. And she ended up meeting one of my fellow practitioners in the area who said, you know, if you're willing to try something totally different, I might be able to help you. And she was like, oh, yes, please. I'll try anything at this point. And it turns out this poor little dog had entity attachments and was pretty emotionally distressed because of it. So the practitioner cleared that all up, and the dog was immediately behaving differently. Now, apparently, this poor dog was quite the magnet for entities because it continued to happen. But at least this lady now knows who she can reach out to for help, and she can recognize in her dog when she needs to reach out for help. And I'm sure they worked together and tackled the bigger issue of healing whatever was making this poor dog an entity magnet. But that was a very unique situation, and I hadn't heard of it before, and I found it to be such a fascinating story. And I think all of these stories really show just how extremely helpful this work is for animals, because any one of those situations could have led to the animal being too much to handle or too disruptive to the household or in too much suffering. And if situations like that continue, the only solutions are very unfortunate ones. And I want to do everything that I can to help animals and their household dynamic be as peaceful as possible so they can have a wonderful life rather than end up in a shelter or being put down. And this work can help in a lot of physical ways as well. I've helped dogs and cats overcome illness and or injury a lot quicker, as well as clarifying for the owners what's going on with their animal. My sweet boy does have some physical ailments that I'm still working on, but I have helped him heal from surgeries, injuries, infections, both like dental infections and fungal infections on his feet. I've helped him release toxins from various things that he's gotten into or eaten. Another little side story, he used to be absolutely obsessed with the garbage to the point there was nothing we could do to keep him away from the garbage. We had to get one of those little roll out garbage containers that you put in a cupboard, and we had to take it a couple steps further and put on like desk or file cabinet locks, 2 different file cabinet locks on the cupboard. And then he would still just about dismantle the cupboard trying to get to the garbage. And now we've found that we've accidentally left the garbage open when we've left the house, and he won't even touch it. So that's the power of this work with animals. Just one little side story there. But yeah, I've done all sorts of work on his body systems, such as his nervous system, his endocrine system, and so on. Because oftentimes when there's imbalances in the body systems, it shows up either as disease or illness or behavioral issues, none of which an animal should have to suffer with. So I love that I can help in both physical and functional ways as well. Now, there are limitations sometimes, like with an elderly animal coming to the end of their life, I might not be able to clear up all their physical issues and keep them alive, but I will be able to ease their pain and their transition. With an injured animal, I might not be able to help heal all of their wounds well enough to keep them alive, but I sure can help alleviate some of the pain and make that process a little bit easier for them. One time I found a baby bunny in my yard who had been attacked and was in a very bad way. And I was able to gently scoop it up and put it in a cozy, safe place and give it a little bit of water. And I did quite a bit of work on this poor little bunny. And it was very evident exactly what injuries it had sustained in the attack by what was coming up during that session. And I did as much as I could to help it heal and alleviate the pain and send it love. But unfortunately, its injuries were too extensive and it passed away. And I felt absolutely terrible and I cried a lot. I really, really wanted to save that poor little bunny. But I do take solace in knowing that at least I did what I could to ease its suffering and show it love and compassion. And I guess that's part of why I'm so passionate about helping animals, is because they give us so much love and compassion in so many ways. And I think we owe it to them to show them as much love and compassion in return and support them in every way that we can. Animals truly are bright, wonderful, loving souls who provide so many wonderful things in our lives, whether they be our beloved pet, or an occasional interaction with someone else's pet, or a service animal, or even a wild animal. They just really, really enrich our lives in so many ways. And I'm so happy to do whatever I can to give back to them because I think they have a sacred purpose on this planet that most humans are kind of oblivious of. Animals are constantly healing us, whether we realize it or not, and I'm so grateful to help them heal in return. So, if you have an animal who's displaying strange behavior or suffering some physical issue like illness, disease, or injury, or if you work at a shelter, please reach out. I would love to help you. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, and please be sure to join me for the next episode where I will be talking about something. I haven't quite decided yet, so it'll be a surprise. See you then! If you would like to set up a session with me to experience this work for yourself, please go to springseedwellness.com. If you would like to find a practitioner in your local area, please go to discoverhealing.com. And please always feel free to reach out with any questions or specific topics you would like me to address. See you next episode.